episode 35 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Paul.
And today we're going to be discussing the late great Harold Ramis and his fine achievements in film.
Yes, the unfortunate death. Was it just under a week before the Oscars?
It was, yeah. They really had to get a nice picture up there to clap for when he, the Oscars.
And it's been a bit of a sad last few months, really.
Well, like they said, if you watch the in memoriam for the Oscars, they're like, there was a lot this year. Like they even said, lost way too many. Like, it was a rough year. With
obviously you got Paul Walker.
Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Harold Ramis. You've also got everyone's favorite Uncle Phil. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he passed away. I believe
there were a lot of directors, a lot of stars of old films that, But anyway, we are here to discuss Mr. Spengler himself.
Yes, it's good old Egon.
What a horrible name, Egon Spengler.
I'm sure he was laughing his ass off when he wrote that one.
What do you do for fun? I collect mold spores books. Yes.
Alright, so should we start with the Ghostbusters?
Why not? Start with it, finish with it.
Alright, well, I think then, do you remember the first time you saw Ghostbusters?
I do remember the first time. I think it might have been covered on another podcast, I'm not sure. But this was one my brother and I watched. I must have been like 5 or 6 the first time I saw it. I was born in 82. It came out, 84 or 85?
Yes, the sequel came out the year I was born, I think. But yeah, it was...
I think it was written in 84. I think it actually was released in 85. I don't know. I can check that.
Sounds about right.
But either way, so, back then, things would get on tape, or you would tape them off of they'd show a movie on a weekend and you'd have to get a tape in the VCR and tape it real quick because it'd never be seen again if you didn't have it taped.
Yeah, I don't know what it was like over here, but in the UK, when I was younger, you had the VHS in the VCR, and to program it, you had to find the six letter / number code. But you would type that in, and then it would record at that time at that channel, and that was all you could do.
And it is 84, but so it was probably 87 though by the time I saw it for the first time, and there were certain parts that scared me shitless.
Like what?
The opening scene with "Get her!" That was your big plan. Get her. That frightened me, but I still watched it. And also when Dana Barrett is alone in her apartment in the chair, and the arms come through, like the dog hands or whatever, come through and grab her arms and drag her into the kitchen. That left me a few nights awake. And then proceeding to get yelled at by my mother, "Why do you watch it then?"
Yes.
Because it's great. Because
why do you keep
amazing.
It? Well.
And it was probably, I'd say, 10 or 12 viewings of covering my eyes during that opening scene before I could actually just watch it and enjoy it. But having just seen it last night, I did call back on those times. But when did you recall seeing it for the first time?
Well, it was a little later than that. Yeah, I think the first time I saw it, I was either just a teenager or between 10 and 13 that time, and it was just on TV, or one of my parents was watching it, and so I sat down and watched it, and it was just really funny.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the first times I remember seeing a film that wasn't Monty Python, that was just a full-on comedy film.
It is wall-to-wall jokes. I mean, like I was thinking of this when I watched it last night. Everyone has their big lines, if someone asks if you're a god, say yes, or it's line me, but there are every single line now for me is quotable, has quote status, just the most obscure, just whatever, would you like some coffee? Would I? Yes, have some. Yes, have some. Just that odd give and take is just hilarious to me now. With Rick Moranis with that stupid colander on his head with all the shit plugged into it.
But I have to say, watching that, I always wonder if the Back to the Future guys didn't take notes.
Yeah, very true, very true.
With the mind reader. Yeah. And then my favourite, just like little line that Bill Murray throws in most people, probably their favourite little offshoot of his is the one where he goes, and the flowers are still standing.
Or back off, man, I'm a scientist. Yeah, that one's number one probably for me.
I mean, the one for me is just because of how he said it, it's just like, okay, so she's a dog.
I was thinking of that driving here, and that was the one I was trying to pull up, but I went with the Rick Moranis one because I was stalling. Couldn't come up with it. Yes, okay, so she's a dog. Yes.
It's a nice little line that, out of context, it's like, what?
Yeah.
But in the film, it's like, yeah, she is. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So it's a great film, and definitely going to be one of those films that I think parents are going to show their kids, and their kids are going to get it. As opposed to parents showing, you can definitely think some film from the 80s, if you show kids nowadays, they'd be like, what's this? I don't.
Yeah, well, there's so much more stimulating things. Like it really has to be great. I think for something to be dated for anyone young now to really appreciate it.
Well, I would say, let's say Withnell and I. You show that to any kid now that isn't a real film fan, they're just going to look at it and be like, "This is so boring."
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. One of the points I wanted to bring up to you is, does it stand up? Does it stand the test of time? And it's hard to remove, I guess, nostalgia or, just having that experience when you're young and just not having, that's always going to be tied into it. So I know there are certain movies that I can look now and aren't technically well done films, like The Goonies. But I will throw down with anyone who says The Goonies is a bad movie.
I cannot say it's a bad movie.
Or The Monster Squad, or just that is absolutely a horrible movie. But it is so bad. But it's it's just all the Universal monsters in like one place at one time, and and I can look back and see that's a bad movie, but I still love it. This I think is a great movie, and I still love it. And yes, the effects are dated. But you're going to have that anytime you go into the world of special effects.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we are going to have a time when Avatar looks dated. And we're going to have a time, maybe, when Gravity looks dated.
No, yeah. But, although it's... I don't know.
That's hard to imagine now. Yes. But, I mean, then... like you saw, I showed you The Last Starfighter. Those were extremely innovative graphics at the time. And... everyone couldn't believe what they're seeing. Now we're like, oh my god, I could do that on my phone in 4 minutes. And have something that looks better, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where I think at this point, let's take Gravity. You've reached a point where the actual effects are kind of seamless, and they appear to be reaching the end of what they can do with integrating live action with the effects. At least, obviously, you get the budget. You can do this. I think what we're going to see is more low-budget films being able to use those effects and then pushing out into, assuming virtual reality goes anywhere, maybe augmented films. So you get more stuff actually interacting with you during the film. But it's one of those things that's really difficult to tell because unless you are working on it now, you have no idea what's going to be coming out.
But even like Fellowship of the Ring, or like just like how Gollum changed from one film to the next.
Yeah,
you watch that first film, Peter Jackson purposefully did not focus a lot on Gollum because he knew that in a few years he'd have the technology to really blow us out of the water, and he did. Like, he looks like a real character in those second two films.
Yeah, and especially in The Hobbit as well. You compare first Gollum to The Hobbit, it's like, wow, how this...
and like, when those came out in 1999 or 2000, that looked absolutely incredible, and I could not imagine anything looking better than that.
Yeah.
And we just keep getting better. So, that aside, like, I noticed one part that I don't think I'd ever noticed. There's a, like, where they show the rooftop scenes, the finale, and what is her name? Not Zool. Zool's the other one, but
I know.
Gozer or whatever. Yes, Gozer. But there's like perspective scenes where you just see the buildings in the background, and they literally are hand drawn and like matted in there. You just see like steeples that are just triangle shaped, and you can just like see they don't match up with the foreground at all. But it's a quick shot, if you're looking at it, wow, does it look bad?
That was the thing when I rewatched it, and you get the far away shot of them walking into the destroyed apartment. It's like, wow, that's obviously a matte painting.
Yes, very obviously a matte painting, yeah. Or just the little effect of speeding up the camera when the Ecto-1 just like flies out of the firehouse. When it's like... and it's like zip, zip, zip. Like even that effect now, like no one bothers with.
I've noticed.
Unless it's purposely for comedic irony.
Yeah, I've noticed in a couple of films recently, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there was one film where it was the car reversing, cuts inside to the guy turning the wheel, and then the car going forward, and they sped all of it up. So it's like, so, I'm sorry, why did you do that? Did you need to save those 3 seconds?
I don't know. But let's, focusing on the story, focusing on the jokes, I think, I'm sure a few of them I'm just laughing at because that's my trained reaction now, or I'm just smiling. But there are still just moments I just absolutely love throughout that entire film.
Yeah.
And, I just every time Bill Murray trying to talk to Dana, I want to talk to Dana. Oh, Zuli. Yeah. She just levitates. Oh, sounds like you got enough people in there already. And It's not something I can watch over and over and over, but I am happy to return to at least once a year.
There's also the thing of the guy that is from whatever department he is who wants to shut them down.
Pecker? It's Peck.
Yeah. And if you actually step outside, pretend that you are your average Joe public, and you've not seen everything of the Ghostbusters that you've seen watching the film, he is acting 100% normally. There is no reason for him to believe that there are these ghosts out there, and they are just drawing so much power away from the city. And it's like, why wouldn't you shut these people down? And even at the end, where when he's saying to the mayor, it's like, you're not seriously considering this. It's like, no, seriously, you're not really considering
it. And then
this.
he's like, take him away. Take Peck away.
Yeah, instead of rushing, I'm going to miss him.
Send him a fruit basket. Just another throw-off line, but I always remember. Yeah. All right, I think we probably... I could go on and on about Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Let's...
and the sequel, I think...
I'll say, we can come back to the sequel very quickly at the end. Yeah. Why not move into, let's say, a director role then, Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yes. Yeah. Let's, because he was a great performer, great writer, and great director. But, I do like the ones also where he's not on camera.
Yeah.
Not for a large amount of time. Yes, a cameo here and there.
Yeah, a cameo appearance rather than a main character type thing. And, Groundhog Day was really good film. It was the film I think that I first saw Bill Murray in, and then and it was like watching it. Yeah, this is he's really good. And then I found all the comedy roles that he was doing and all the other stuff, and it was I think Groundhog Day is a good introduction to Bill Murray because he has the serious stuff when he's really trying to show that he is a good person, and then you've got all of the comedy stuff where he sort of goes off the rails, literally at one point.
He can still be okay. Well, no, probably not now. Is it too early for flapjacks?
And of course, my favourite little thing watching that is watching his progression of talking to Ned. The guy is it Phil?
The groundhog, you mean? Okay, the Ned Ryerson. The insurance guy. Yeah, yes.
He first meets him and he's just like, oh yeah, hi. And then the second day, it's like, didn't we already do this? Hi, how's it going? And then as it gets further along, he just keeps going until one day it just Ned! Whack!
Punches him square in the Bing again! You are on a roll.
I can't imagine how.
Don't tell me you don't remember because I should have I remember you.
I can't imagine that role for that guy having to do exactly the same take again and again and again. Where Bill Murray knowing Bill Murray, probably didn't do exactly the same take again and again. Just
well, like you're saying with this series, like the stuff that it's ultimately just a really funny movie. But there are those. It still gets me every time I watch it. Those scenes with the old man that dies, like the homeless guy, and then there are days he's just feeding him bowl and bowl of soup, and then realizing he can't change what is going to happen. It is this man's time to go. And Yeah, that part was absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic life lesson as well, because obviously he is able to change the course of events in the day, but very specifically, this man will die, and it's something that
you don't get domain over the big picture.
Yeah, I mean it could also be, because doesn't he say when he's talking to the doctors that like it was something to do with his heart, and there wasn't anything that they could do, so it was...
or like, when he goes in and like demands to see the chart, and the nurse says it was just his time to go, and he's like, I refuse to accept that, or something like, refuse to believe that or accept that.
So it was a fantastic idea as well. I know he didn't write it, but like, what would you do if there was just one day? And how long would it take you before you started either just trying to make it the best day, or just...
Well, I mean, I think they show a great progression of that, where he exploits it, and then, initially, I think, first, denies it's happening, then exploits it for his own gain, and then, is frustrated, that, then all the multiple suicide attempts, and then to the acceptance of it, well, now I'm just going to learn everything I can, and be a master of everything, and essentially be a god on Earth.
Yeah, which he does state
in the script. I think it says there is he lives for 10,000 years.
Really?
It's around like 10,000 years. Which the Cracked podcast, which I'm a huge fan of, they get a kind of crappy reputation of just shitting on everything, but they are truth lighteners. They bring the truth to people about certain things, but. It was one of the unlikeliest couples or relationships that actually wouldn't work. They were talking about films, and he and Andy McDowell's relationship just wouldn't work because he has been around for 10,000 years. He is a god. Yeah. He knows everything. He knows everything about her. He knows everything about everyone. And so how can he be satisfied in just a normal human relationship that he's already spent 10,000 years talking with her and winning her love every day? So you see, how can he be held? How can she hold his interest? Which I understand. Absolutely.
I would disagree with that, because for the most part, most of his interactions with her were the same. Obviously that he would attempt to talk about different things each time, but
but she's still on the schedule of, we got to do this Groundhog Report. We still have, we got to get back to the studio tomorrow or tonight.
Can't do it. Talk to them next day.
Yeah. Groundhog. So you have limited parameters in which to work. Yeah.
So, and obviously you can talk about a lot of stuff in that, but the second that the day doesn't reset, you have completely new stuff. I like the idea of them bringing out a Groundhog Day 2, where it's actually a horror film where that second day starts repeating for him.
Oh god!
He starts to realize that the rest of his basically immortal life is going to be a number of repeating days,
each lasting 10,000 years. Yeah. I don't know. I can definitely see everlasting life sounds great or whatever, but 10,000 years, I can see where you could really be bored with mundane life. He's already a piano master. He can already play the saxophone or flute or whatever. He fixes anything. He can do anything.
True, but
so what are the new challenges?
Well,
what?
I would argue that obviously he can do that, but
is he going to wake up and make waffles for Andy McDowell in the morning and be happy?
But he didn't leave town, so he could only master what was in that town. He's probably not a master of the didgeridoo. I'm not sure there was a didgeridoo player in that town.
Probably, his theremin playing probably needs some work.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously he can do whatever was in that town perfectly, but anything that's outside of that, he'll still have to learn.
So what we're saying, great directing job, Harold Ramis. I think is our ultimate point.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that obviously this is us talking about his body of work, but it's what should happen with anyone dies, and then you start to take a look at it. Use his body of work as a springboard to really get good insight into that sort of stuff. Because I didn't know until I found out he died and then looked up for this thing that he directed the remake of Bedazzled. I really enjoyed it.
I'm sure the people out there, they're like, remake?
Yeah.
Which remake? There was a remake?
Yeah, that's the thing.
They remade the Brendan Fraser one?
When I say remake, I do mean that the Brendan Fraser, Elizabeth Hurley one was the remake.
Yeah.
That is the one he directed, and it is a remake of a film from...
old film, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
40s or 50s?
50s, I think, was the original. And yeah, it was just an up-to-date thing, which I thought really showcased Brendan Fraser. I thought that was one of the films that I first thought that this guy who was in The Mummy as one character, and then The Mummy 2 as the same character, and then The Mummy 3 as the same character. This was him actually getting different roles and being able to do serious and comedy, kind of like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. He was able to be more versatile, which says to me that Harold Ramis appears to be drawn to the idea of sort of your everyday man stuck in a weird situation. Because you got that with Groundhog Day, you got that with Bedazzled. Ghostbusters is almost kind of like that. I mean, they're specialists in their field, and then all this stuff starts happening to them, and they're uniquely qualified to deal with that.
I will say I'm being quiet because I have not seen the film, and I have never seen, I will say, anything that wowed me from Brendan Fraser.
Fair enough.
I've seen just him cast accurately in movies that are just made to make $28 million.
Well, yeah,
and that's fine. I've never seen him and I've never gotten excited by seeing him in a trailer. Let me put it that way. Like, ooh, the new Brendan Fraser flick. So I can't comment and hold on Bedazzled.
No,
other than that, I would see it for Elizabeth Hurley, but I am not to this day.
No, I definitely agree. When it comes to Brendan Fraser, I think he knows exactly what he can do. He was typecast.
He has a limited wheelhouse.
Yeah, he was kind of typecast. He definitely can do serious stuff, and if you actually watch Scrubs, he plays a character in that three times.
I guess I did like him in that.
And he did really well with that. And I don't know what he's been doing. I think he seemed like the kind of guy that he was able to kind of get what he wanted, and if he doesn't work much past that, he seemed fine with it, probably.
Blast from the Past, I did like him in as well.
Oh, there you go.
That was a just funny movie with Christopher Walken in it, and just, that was a funny movie.
I enjoyed both George of the Jungle, which I didn't expect much from. I didn't... And my expectations were met, but it was a fun little film, and also now, of course, I cannot remember what it was, but it was kind of Dudley Do-Right.
Like, just as every Brendan Fraser film goes, I can't recall that one where he did the thing that was kind of funny.
Yeah, Dudley Do-Right. I enjoyed that film mainly because of Alfred Molina.
Okay,
fair enough.
All right, Dr. Ock. All right,
yeah, good old Doc Ock. But yeah, so getting back to Harold Ramis, it's such a shame to think that the person who was able to write these classic films and direct some of these other classic films, like, we're not going to be seeing anymore from this guy.
No, but there will be. I mean, like, as it goes in film, there are the films that were made in the 70s were because of the films that were made in the 50s or 40s. You know, like, everyone has their influences. So those, Harold Ramis had his comedic influence. Mel Brooks had his influences. So you are going to see those students of Harold Ramis, and you will see things that are Ramis-like.
Yeah. Well, especially, I do think that Hollywood now, I would say over the next 5 years, you're going to start seeing more of, let's say, your Stripes, your Groundhog Days, Ghostbusters, like, those feelings of films, I think, are going to start coming, because obviously everyone is now sad that this guy is gone, and then people are going to be like, I kind of want to honour him. I'm going to start working on films, and I think some of them will get through, I'm sure. Like I said, in 5 years, because if someone started now wrote a film, it's going to take a long time to get made.
And it's for one, like I said, I think I talked to you before, like the Academy, going back to Oscars, doesn't, I think, really respect comedy as an art form, when I think it's one of the most difficult art forms out there. Definitely. Especially with something so subjective as humor, what is funny. Yeah. And I don't know, just see someone that I think really was tuned into that. And I mean, a lot of detractors or naysayers will say, this stuff is juvenile or silly, but silly is really, really hard to do well.
Yeah.
Just to watch something and go, oh, that's stupid. But to watch something and say, oh, I see how that's dumb, but that's really making me laugh.
Yeah.
That's a really fine line, and really difficult to be on the other side of that. Yeah, and for me, he always did it.
Yeah, it's kind of at the line of, oh, and oh.
It's like just dumb, whether it's, it's all a perfect melding of the writing and the performance and, and the directing. And, and if it's done well, I think that's what we don't see a lot of in comedies anymore. Is silly. Everything has to have a heavy drama tone to it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking away from these movies, but like Little Miss Sunshine or so, things like that. There always has to be something more serious at play.
Yeah.
Where you see something silly and then it's usually just garbage. Movie 43 or
I was gonna say
something like that where they're just doing silly, but it's just falling flat.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it just simply because it was a meta film just poking fun at everything. But I would go on record and say
world,
it's not a good film.
Yeah, This Is the End did silly extremely well. That I guess that is an example that the only recent one I can think of that really played up the absurd.
Yeah, that did a surprisingly good job at
without just people going, oh, good grief. Like, seriously, celebrities and James Franco's house, Apocalypse. Bleh. Yeah. But, really, really did, I think, an excellent job of playing up the absurd nature of what was going on film.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Might have jumped the shark slightly with the giant demon members.
Yes.
but
then again, that's another thing.
They had to escalate somewhere. So.
Yeah.
But yes, Harold Ramis, like National Lampoon's Vacation, which I still think is the finest of the vacation films.
I'll take your word for that. I still haven't seen it.
I think European is horrible. Yeah.
I mean,
Christmas is good, but it's just good to watch at Christmas, and other than that, but these are all John Hughes characters, which get Harold Ramis and John Hughes together. That's you can't go whole you can't really screw that up a whole lot. But I always loved that one. That was like 80 or something. But I think that was might have been Caddyshack was his first. I think that was 80. Vacation was 83, and then then he was in Ghostbusters. But Caddyshack, which I know you said you've only seen
the first 10 minutes of it,
but it's definitely a guy's thing. You don't find too many women who'll go, "Oh, my favorite movie is Caddyshack," because it is juvenile male humor.
I would argue that the main reason for that would be Mr. Rodney Dangerfield.
Dangerfield, yes, but you have young Caddy puking in car. You have Rodney Dangerfield, just the classic line, "Oh, how like that? Come for the free bowl of soup." Just the weirdest things and.
Yeah, Rodney Dangerfield is one of those people that I never quite clicked with Rodney Dangerfield. I think
that's something that's generational. Like my dad absolutely loves him, and actually have like an album, like a vinyl album I listen to, and I think he's great in small doses.
Right.
Like his role in Caddyshack, absolutely great, but I don't want to see 9 movies like that in a row.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, no respect. Oh, hey. Yeah, it's funny, but
the pulling of the tie. What's a guy got to do around here to get some?
Yeah, but I think Chevy Chase, was the funniest. Even with Bill Murray being the weird groundskeeper dude, Carl. I know his name. Shut up, people. I knew it. And but Chevy Chase, when he was funny in the 80s, was absolutely, I think, hilarious because his humor in that is just so straight. He's the perfect straight man in that. He's not goofy. He's just this asshole golf pro and plays it perfectly. But that's one of my all-time comedic favorites.
Right. I would love to have seen, given what Harold Ramis likes to do with straight men, I'd love to have seen him work with Leslie Nielsen.
No, yeah.
Because Leslie Nielsen just was able to do straight man comedy fantastically. Yeah. Like, obviously, Airplane being his first ever comedic role.
Mm-hmm. And that which like a generation of people don't realize, like he had a whole career before that of dramas. Yeah. Like he was a well-respected. He was the Robert De Niro, and then Robert De Niro in Meet the Parents. And you're like, what the hell's going on?
He started out in comedy as a grey-haired man. Like that was where
an old man. Yeah.
And obviously he was kind of up and down after that, but it's one of those ones where sort of a missed opportunity, as it were. I like to think that before he died, maybe they'd wanted to try and do something.
Yeah, and you never know schedules and stuff. It's so hard to get the people that are in demand together, even in the same room for a meeting.
Yeah, always difficult, unfortunately. So many things you'd like to see together.
Stripes, did you...
I had Stripes.
That's one of my cult favorites.
Yeah, it's one I've seen... I've only seen it the once, and it was a solid film. I mean, co-written by Harold Ramis, and you can tell. Like, it's one of those films where you can tell that this is the class of the same type of writing and pacing as other Harold Ramis films. And it's, like, to me, I kind of like those sorts of characters. Sergeant Bilko being another one. Obviously, that's not a Harold Ramis film, but yeah, there's ones where there's just one person in the institution that just does not do things the way that they're supposed to. And then you get to see their attempt at getting out of trouble, or the institution's attempt at getting them into trouble. Like, I really do enjoy those sorts of films. Again, if they're done well. Yeah. There are some that just are not. And I do think that we probably won't see another Stripes. Mainly because half of the people involved in it aren't around anymore.
It's extremely politically incorrect. Yeah. Not that those films still can't be made, but it's definitely a steeper climb. Yeah,
but I do think we'll probably see another Ghostbusters-esque thing. And obviously,
lastly, I think before we let go, I did want to discuss the possibility of a Ghostbusters 3 and your feelings on that now.
I am willing to let it happen. I'm sure that Harold Ramis already sort of had some ideas for it. Obviously, they wrote the video game, and I know that him and Dan Aykroyd were kind of doing some work on a script. So I'm sure that they would be able to continue writing, like maybe get Bill Murray involved in the writing with Dan Aykroyd, get a script done together. I would be interested to see more from that, and I'm sure that given that they're the people that would be working with it, that they would treat it well, and I'm sure they would come up with something very funny to explain why Egon is not there.
Well, I will say, but for a change, I don't want to say 100%, but I really strongly disagree. I just don't want to see this film made now without Egon. Like, I cannot imagine Egon not being in a Ghostbusters movie.
Right.
And I can't imagine it, like, even now with this concept being so dated, like this film, I guess, franchise or trilogy, whatever you want to call it, beginning in 1984, and we're 30 years down the road. First of all, that's a challenging film to make anyway, just to back on that same comedy and same characters and have it be successful in this modern time. Now, with Egon not being in there, someone who's a comedic genius in my mind, I think that's even harder. The only thing I would say is if this gets the green light, I think 2 did a good job of setting up who that next Ghostbuster is, and that would be Rick Moranis.
Yes.
Rick Moranis would have to take Egon's place.
Yes, he would. Now,
so you'd have the other 2. You'd have...
have you heard there's a rough thing out there as to what they would do if they were to go with it, especially now given how old the actors are? The rough thing, and don't quote me on this because this could be wrong, is that it would reach a point where the old Ghostbusters are trying to bring in new people to take over.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't be the main focus. It would almost be they're the teachers, and this new class, as it were, is coming in, which could be interesting. But I mean,
sounds a lot like Rocky V. We all know how well that went. Sylvester Stallone, I'm going to be your protege, Tommy Gunn. Yeah, your mentor. You're going to be my protege, and we're going to have a street fight. Yeah. Mentor movies suck.
Well, this would be more. It wouldn't necessarily be a mentor film. It would just be. I'm kind of imagining, unfortunately,
with the exception of the Karate Kid. Okay, sorry. Only mentor film that is excellent. Sorry.
I'm kind of imagining Ghostbusters meets Police Academy, where you've got this really comedic new team trying to be taught by the old guys, but almost flipped. Like the new people are serious, and the teachers are the off the walls one.
Maybe get Jonah Hill in there as one of the new Ghostbusters or something.
You know, that could work.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. Or I kind of love to see the cast of the Avengers being the new people being taught and stuff. Yeah. Then it would kind of be like passing the torch, as it were.
Yeah. Do you really need Ghostbusters when the Avengers can do it all?
Yeah, fair enough.
They can get rid of aliens. I'm sure they can handle ghosts. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if we're actually going along that line, then surely the ghosts are just people in a slightly alternate dimension. Just a bunch of Lokis.
We can let Hawkeye capture the ghost. He's not contributing to the Avengers. Yeah. Let Hawkeye take care of the ghost problem in New York City. And
the opening is Hawkeye being fired from the Avengers and having
like Hawkeye, everyone knows this. You probably know this. You're lame. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I have an arrow for that.
All right, you're gonna go in this dilapidated firehouse and you're gonna chase ghosts. Okay.
Just get my proton arrow. There we go.
Oh, might I say the best text tone ever is that proton pack turning on.
I like the idea though of say Bill Murray being his teacher, where he just gets out the arrow to fire the ghost. Like, what are you doing? Just like gun. Like,
well, quickly back to your theory of like supporting. I think his name was Walter Peck. Yes. And his credible skepticism of this whole thing. Yeah. The movie doesn't touch on anything. Like, these ghosts are only appearing in New York.
Yeah.
Not in California. Not in Europe.
Yeah.
Not in the Midwest.
Just New York.
Just New York around these guys. So, yeah, I can kind of see where you think they're up to something.
Yeah. And it is kind of... Maybe the third one would be set in Paris. They'll finally actually
an American Ghostbuster in Paris. There you go.
Okay, we found the
John Landau, yes. I think you got something there. I think we should end on that.
I think so.
I don't think we have any more gems better than that.
Oh, no. Alright, well.
So we miss you, Harold Ramis. We loved you.
Yeah, and looking forward to the homages coming out, but nothing's ever going to be able to replace that guy.
Yeah. So long, Egon.
Yes.
We love you.
We hardly knew you. Alright, well, on that slightly somber note, I've been Paul.
I'm Brian.
See ya.